Hello, and thank you for joining us. My name is Sabah Muhammad, and I'm Senior Legislative and Policy Counsel at Treatment Advocacy Center, a national nonprofit dedicated to eliminating barriers to the timely and effective treatment of serious mental illness. One of the ways we work toward that goal is by educating communities across the country about assisted outpatient treatment, or AOT, a tool in the toolbox for civil courts and mental health systems to work collaboratively to help individuals with serious mental illness caught in a cycle of repeat hospitalizations, homelessness, and incarcerations. Today, you're going to hear from people who are living well with serious mental illness or supporting a loved one doing so after graduating from AOT programs. This important conversation will specifically highlight the experiences and needs of people of color. According to the American Psychiatric Association, minoritized racial groups often bear a disproportionately high burden of disability resulting from mental disorders and are less likely to receive mental health care than whites. Reasons for this range from limited choice and access due to costs and location of services to internal fear and external stigma. Culturally competent care is the ability of providers and organizations to deliver healthcare services that meet the social, cultural, and linguistic needs of patients. Different cultural backgrounds and experiences can shape the way individuals receive and respond to care. A culturally competent healthcare system can help improve outcomes, provide a higher quality of care, and can contribute towards the reduction of racial and ethnic health disparities. One way to increase culturally competent care is by listening to and learning from the voices of people of color and their families with SMI. That is what we aim to do in this video. Today, I'm joined by Marcus, Marquita, and Nicole. I wanted to start with you, Marcus. Can you tell us a little bit of what life was like before the AOT program?
Yes. Life before the ALT program was typically a little rough, but I always managed to find ways to cope with my mental health or deny my mental health for myself until an incident happened to where I was hospitalized and I didn't understand why because I didn't feel like that I was there. But luckily, the ALT program was there to help me understand I just needed help and to get back on my feet.
Marcus, thank you for sharing. Are you comfortable sharing your diagnosis?
My diagnosis is I suffer from severe anxiety and bipolar disorder.
So, what with your perception of mental health and being strong, how did that change when you went to join AOT?
When I joined AOT, I ironically found people who were like me or we had a lot of things in common. And it was like, dang, they if they can do it or if they've been going through this, I know I can go through this and at least try and help someone else and pass it on and let everyone else know, hey, if you feel like it's something wrong, it's okay to admit to yourself it's something wrong.
That's really, really nice. How did you go from not wanting to say anything to be strong to now I'm a voice for others? And I don't know, how do you see that as being a voice for others as an example? Or how does that affect your changed perception of mental health from before and now?
Because especially coming from a black family, mental health is not really um, expressed or just acknowledged. It's sort of just swept under the rug or like rub some dirt on it type thing. I have a little brother and a little sister. I don't want them to ever feel like that they have to be okay. That it's nothing that they can do to get help.
That's amazing. Can you tell me a little bit more about the impact the AOT team had on your recovery?
Yeah. Okay. So during my recovery, the ALT program was very, very intense. Like they were relentless on making sure I was okay. I need anything. If even if I just needed to talk or get out the house. And it was more than that. It was I faced homelessness at one point. They got me they offered me vouchers and low come apartments that I could look into. They helped me get my job when I got out the hospital. Um, it was just literally anything I needed, they were there for.
No, that's really impactful. You mentioned them being able to specifically help you with a troublesome relationship. Were there any instances where they took your racial, religious, or other personal identification into consideration?
They always did, but in the most respectful way. And the fact that they knew I was a black male and the stereotypes and stigmas that go against me in the real world. So they wasn't like trying to fake things. They were very honest with me and like we handle things accordingly, like food stamps and anything like they understood why I wouldn't go to the police about me being abused. They understood why I wouldn't I didn't feel like I had to leave or I couldn't leave. So they didn't just force me, hey, you need to hurry up and leave that relationship. They were very patient with me. They understood. They took everything about first they found out who I was as a person and then they started the treatment. So that was very helpful.
Is there anything that you think the providers could have done better to provide you with culturally relevant care?
Um, I don't think necessarily it's them, but I would love to see more black staff. Like I would love to see more minority staff. Which it was I did have minorities, but it was primarily white. So it was like I would love to see like my counselor, she was black, and I love that. So because they had someone for me who got me. So I wish it was just more of that in the program.
Thank you. If you could tell anything to someone who just got an AOT order, what would it be?
Definitely take advantage of the opportunity you've been given because it's definitely a blessing. And I promise you will come out the other side better.
So, Marquita, on to you. We really want just to know about the family member experience. If you could tell us what it was like at first when you saw Marcus struggling and what were some of your options then before AOT?
Well, Marcus is my first nephew, and so I've always looked at him and considered him a child of mine. Um, he's always been a kind person, and once his father passed away, I tried to encourage them to, get talk to someone because I still have my father.
Were you involved in any of the treatment while he was in AOT? And what was that like if you were?
I met a couple of his counselors or sponsors, and they were awesome. They came to my house because he often would stay with me, but whenever they could not reach him, they were at my door looking for him and making sure that he got to his appointments. And and it kind of helped me because I'm normally little mama and want to make sure you're doing this and you're doing that. I didn't have to because they were available and they would show up, And so I was so thankful for that having that outside support. So it's not me being the mean guy and trying to make him do something. He had that support. So I really appreciated that.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing. We're going to shift over to Nicole for a little bit, but we might have some more questions about your impressions. So just hold tight and thank you so much. So I have some of the same questions for you, Nicole, and I know you are here today as a mother and caregiver. So please just could you tell us about your introduction to AOT through your loved one?
Um, we were introduced through to AOT after my son had been hospitalized. I can't even count how many times. Um, but he had an incident where he left like a rehab, and then he was arrested. When he was first diagnosed, I believe, with bipolar 1. And then a few years later, he is diagnosed now as being schizoaffective.
What was daily life like trying to navigate the many hospitalizations?
In the beginning, it was hectic. And I was confused a lot. To just see somebody that your child go from being one person to a completely different person, that me as a person, I didn't understand my child. So it was life altering for me to be a mom and not be able to take whatever he was going through away from him. As parents, your kid gets sick, you take them to the doctor, they give them some type of medicine, and they're fine in a couple of weeks. And this just wasn't that. It changed my life. It changed our life. My son always really did well in school. He was in school. He was, and then everything just changed for him. So no more school. It's to the point where he can't even hold a job because of everything that's going on with him mentally. So it's like a grieving process.
How did the AOT program help with some of that?
I feel like the AOT program helped him. It gave me like a backup. So I could take him here and I'll be like, look, they're here to help you. And they're going to hold you accountable. They're going to hold you accountable for, not seeing the doctor when the doctor comes. They're going to hold you accountable for if you don't take your medicine, and they're going to ask you questions about that. And I feel like it kind of put him in a mind frame, because the judge was, just like Marcus said, they were gentle, they were kind, and they didn't make him feel like, even though you have to go to court and you're sitting before a judge, it doesn't feel like you're in trouble. And Judge Reese, I feel like he put a lot of effort into making my son Brian, his name is Brian feel comfortable in knowing that you're not here because you're in trouble. You're here because we want to help you and give you the resources that you need. So I felt like once we got into that program, for some time, he was on track. And I felt like he wanted to make the judge proud too, not just me, but he was really trying so he could make the judge proud, because he respected that judge. But, we still have our problems, because overall, the mental health has taken over, and he's struggling with that tremendously.
Yes, I understand. Sometimes it takes a few times. I always say we're in this. It's a marathon, not a sprint. Um, was it important for Brian to have a Black judge when he met Judge Reese?
I think so, just for him to be able to identify, and for the judge, like Marcus said, also, he can understand Brian's perspectives on things. And I feel like sometimes, you relate to somebody that looks like you a little bit more, in positions of, being a judge. And for Brian was in school to be a lawyer, so he had aspirations of becoming a judge one day. So him being in front of Judge Reese, and Judge Reese having that compassionate heart for him, I feel like that helps him a lot.
That's really good to hear. With that being said, is there anything you think that the AOT program could have done better, or that you hope to see when he is again a participant in the program? Would you like to see something done better or differently?
The only thing so far, like, just like Marcus said too, they were a really good support system. Brian was a part of an ACT team too. So the judge held the ACT team accountable for whatever they did or did not do. So I appreciated that, because sometimes the ACT teams are not performing at peak ability. um to to be nice, they don't perform at peak ability all the time. So it's just little things, but for the most part, I feel like it really helped. And it was something that kept him, he knew he had to go to court every couple of weeks or every 4 weeks. And um he knew by those court dates, whatever I was doing before, I need to get my act together because I have to go and see Judge Reese. And I know he's going to ask me questions about whatever it was he told me to do the last time. And I think my son still struggles with, oh, I'm not that bad. It's not that big of a problem. It's just, I have these little episodes, but it's not that bad. So he's still struggling where I feel like at least Marcus understands, that he has a problem. So Brian's sometimes like, yeah, something is wrong, but in the next day he'll be like, no, nothing's wrong with me. It's the rest of the world. So we're still going through that back and forth where he's still struggling with his new reality.
Yes, I can understand. My loved one struggled with anosognosia, the lack of insight. We're almost 25 years in, and they still think it's the rest of the world, something's up and not an actual illness. But our loved ones can turn the corner, especially when they're still young and already have intervention. My family wasn't fortunate enough to experience AOT, and I always say it's definitely something I would have wanted for my brother, especially when I talk to Judge Reese. I've had a few conversations with him, so I know that is an excellent court to be in. I know you are in good hands, and we just have to, keep hope alive and know that sometimes it takes a little time. Thank you all for sharing today. Is there anything you want to add about your story, about your experience before we wrap up?
I just want to say thank you again for to the AOT program for helping me through what I would call a traumatic experience. Like you guys said, it's not over yet. It'll probably never be over. Mental health is over everything. So I'm just thankful for the tools that they gave me to stay on track. And
I am too.
And to ask them to please keep on doing what they're doing. Please keep doing what y'all doing. There's plenty of us out there.
All right. Thank you so much for watching, and thank you to our interviewees for sharing your stories. Today, we discussed experiences in assisted outpatient treatment and how care providers can better serve people of all races, ethnic backgrounds, and other forms of identity by striving to provide customized, person-centered care that is both culturally responsive and cognizant of racism, marginalization, and other social disparities. We hope you take the lessons learned here and implement them in your own community.